In this first video of a mixing tutorial series, we're going to have a look at how to EQ a kick drum. This method works for any kick drum in any genre. It's based around some key frequencies that are good starting points. Bear in mind that frequencies will vary from kick drum to kick drum, but they are a good guide. Move up or down the frequency range to find a sweet spot for your mix. Always use your ears to hear if it needs it or not. Sometimes there's no need to do anything. You can also try EQing in mono to hear overlapping frequencies from different tracks better. The overall idea is to have a smiley curve EQ, enhancing the lows, reducing the lower mids, and boosting the higher frequencies. Personally, I like to cut first, then boost. When cutting, it's a good idea to boost first to accentuate the problem, then cut to remove it. You want to generally use a narrower cue to cut and a wider cue to boost. Soloing your instrument can be nice to focus on whichever area you're working on at that moment, but remember to listen to the changes you're making in the context of your drum loop and of your song to make sure it works nicely in the mix and actually is making things better. You also want to make sure you're not fooling yourself with things just being louder after EQing. We perceive things naturally as being an improvement if they are louder, so gain matching is your best friend. In Ableton, I use a handy little Max for Live plugin called Volume Buddy. Doing it manually doesn't take long either. You can use your ears or look at the meters to level match. The first cut frequency is around 150 to 300 Hz. It's usually a muddy area. The second cut frequency is in between 7 to 900 Hz. It's usually mentioned as the basketball bouncing sound, and removing it usually declutters that area. Looking at boosting, the first frequency is in between 40 to 80 Hz. It's for the low-end thump. The second frequency to boost is in between 2500 to 4500 Hz. You might want to boost a bit of both or just one of them. It really depends on the source. It makes it more aggressive. The last frequency to boost is around 8K. It's for the clickiness and the air. I have made some presets for Fabfilter and the Kirchhoff EQ with these starting frequencies. Feel free to download them from my website, it's free. I've also created a free mix sheet with these frequencies and some additional useful compression settings for almost every category. Let's have a look at two different examples. We're going to start with the first cut around 180 Hz. We can solo to hear the mud and accentuate it if needs be to hear it even better. Then cut a few dBs and make the cue narrower. The second frequency to cut is around 800 for this track. Once again, I accentuate it to hone in on the frequency. Then I dip it a few dBs and make the cue a bit narrower. Now the first frequency to boost is around 4500 Hz to add some smack. Then a bit of 8K after for the air and the clickiness. I use the shelf, but you can use a bell. See whichever works best. Then I used my ears and I heard a nasty frequency around 400 Hz. I soloed it and boosted it to hear it better. Then I dipped it a few dBs and made the cue narrower. Last, I boosted a bit around 50 Hz to add a little bit more of a thump. Now we can A/B the results a few times. Okay, in the second example, I'll start off by showing the end result, then I'll do it from scratch. A bit of 60 Hz for the thumb, 180 again for the mud, basketball sound, making things a little bit more aggressive, same, just a little bit higher, and then just a bit of an air. And for the clickiness, once again it's a shelf, but I could have used a bell. So I'm gonna start from scratch from the presets I've made for Fabfilter. So we're gonna cut first, once again around 180, it does the trick. Next a bit of 900, 8900 to remove the basketball sound. Then on this one I thought a bit of 2500 and some 4500 were working well together. Then after that a bit of an achy shelf. Like I said, a bell would have been fine too. And then to finish, a bit of 50 Hz to add a bit of thump. I hope this video will help some of you with EQing questions. I will cover almost every category of instruments for EQing purposes in the future, and I will do some compression tutorials for all of them as well, so stay tuned.